Will the Bengals handle business in New York and improve to 6-2? Hi again, everyone. I'm James Rapien with allbengals.com and Cincinnati Bengals talk here on a rainy Friday outside of Paul Brown Stadium, where the Bengals just wrapped up their Friday practice. And overall, some pretty good news. But let's start with the bad news. Rookie running back Chris Evans not going to play on Sunday. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. He tried to push through it and play last week, was active but didn't really get on the field. So the Bengals going to keep him on the shelf this week. Look for Trevion Williams to be elevated from the practice squad and be active on Sunday against the Jets. Now the good news, Khalid Kareem set to make his 2021 debut. He's practiced the past couple of weeks. The former fifth-round pick in the 2020 draft out of Notre Dame had at least flashed in the preseason. And so he's another option on this defensive line, on the edge, to give the Bengals a solid run stopper and maybe some edge rush help. The Bengals will see what he can do when he makes his debut on Sunday. He was dealing with a shoulder injury, has been on the injured list since September. So we'll see if he can give the Bengals anything on Halloween this Sunday. Overall, look, this game, regardless of who's out there for the Jets, you looked at it at the start of the year, winnable game. Certainly now the Jets 1-5, the Bengals 5-2. The Bengals 10.5-point favorites according to the SI Sportsbook. You look at it as a game the Bengals should win and should probably win in convincing fashion, especially with rookie quarterback Zach Wilson out. Mike White out of Western Kentucky will make the start for the Jets. Josh Johnson will be his backup, with Joe Flacco still making his way back after that trade earlier this week. So he will not be active for the Jets this week. But another injury in New York. Corey Davis suffered a hip injury, and it's a hip pointer, I believe, according to Mike Garafolo of NFL Network. And Robert Saleh, the Jets head coach, says, yeah, he's probably not going to play on Sunday. So look for Elijah Moore, the second rounder, 34th overall pick out of Ole Miss, to be out there a ton for Mike White. Lines up in the slot, can line up outside, really good route runner, although he hasn't had the impact that the Jets were hoping he would have. And then Jamison Crowder, I think that he's probably going to be Mike White's go-to receiver this week if Davis can't play, and it doesn't sound like he's going to. So just something noting there, the Jets certainly dealing with their fair share of injuries. Let's get to some keys to the game before I give my prediction, because I'm 3-4. You guys came at me all week. I get it. I'm 3-4. The Bengals are 5-2. We'll see if I can get to 4-4 on the season in week 8, because if I drop to 3-5, I don't know if I'll be able to recover, much like an NFL team. Either way, here are some keys. The first one is where the Bengals are weakest on offense and where the Jets are strongest on defense. And, of course, that strength for the Jets lines up against the Bengals' weakness. It's the interior of the Bengals' offensive line versus the interior of the Jets' defensive line. You got Quinnen Williams over there. You got multiple guys that can move the pocket, that can push the pocket, and that can contain that area and make it tough on Joe. And you know, if that happens and make it tough on both Joes, then, you know, that could – I don't think they're necessarily going to wreck the game, but it could make it interesting. So I'm watching Jackson Carman. I'm watching Trey Hopkins this week. Can Carman continue to build and move forward from what we've seen throughout this season? Because he keeps getting better and better and better. Obviously, he had that huge pancake block on Williams from Brandon Williams from the Ravens. I was trying to think of as a Pro Bowler, and he had this huge pancake block on Samaje Perine's long touchdown run that clinched the game last week. So that's something that I want to see more growth from Jackson Carman. Does he rise to the occasion? And then Trey Hopkins. Look, I think Trey Hopkins is a good player that's been put in a tough situation, having to start the season following a torn ACL after suffering a torn ACL in January. And I thought he played pretty well last week. Had a couple breakdowns early, but recovered and might have had his best game, at least in pass protection, of the year. Can that continue? Can he build on that? My key, keep that pocket clean, especially the interior. Maintain your blocks enough to open up holes for Joe Mixon and give Joe Burrow time to cook. Outside of that, I think this Bengals offense should be just fine. You trust their tackles against the Jets' edge rushers. You know, no Carl Lawson, unfortunately. He's out for the season for the Jets. And so I think that this offense, as long as you do that, should be able to put up points, should be able to top that 30-point mark for a third consecutive week. Now, defensively, it's such a 180 from last week. You're facing an MVP in Lamar Jackson on the road, and now you're facing a guy where there's limited tape. His name's Mike White. You know, not much tape on him, not much film to watch, not much to prepare for or go off of. But the thing that you want to do early is hit him and confuse him. And if you can do those things, you know, this could be a 3, 4, 5 turnover type game if you're putting pressure on a young quarterback, making a start against a defense that's top 10 in a lot of categories, top 5 in some categories. And so that's what I'm looking for this week. And overall, my key, outside of obviously winning the game, is fix your weaknesses. I already mentioned the interior of the offensive line, but Joe Burrow, the one weakness, and we posted a video on Friday morning, Brian Callahan said, look, he wants to cut down on the interceptions. Has 8 this year, on pace for 19 all season. Look, I get that. So go to New York, throw 3 touchdowns, right, or 2 touchdowns, whatever you want to do, and don't have a turnover. On the flip side, this defense, they want to force turnovers. That's something they really, really want to do, and they've done a decent job of it. But this could be one of those 3, 4, 5 turnover type games, and Jesse Bates looking for his first interception of the season. Maybe it's this week. Akeem Davis-Gaither's gotten close on a couple of them. Maybe it's this week. So, as always, when you're playing a bad team, you want to get off to a fast start, especially on the road. Don't give Mike White any confidence, any hope that he can win this game. Don't give that Jets defensive line any hope that they can wreck this game. And if you do those things, they should be able to handle business. And that's why I have the Bengals handling things. No Zach Wilson, who would be a wild card. I think he's actually pretty talented, even though he hasn't had great numbers this year. No Corey Davis. At least it doesn't feel like Corey Davis is going to play. Even if he does, score doesn't change. I'll have the Bengals handling business 31, the Jets 13. Yeah, they cover that 10.5 point spread that the SI Sportsbook put out there. So, and by the way, real quick, it was like 3.5. The future line was 3.5 last week before Zach Wilson went down and the Bengals rolled the Ravens. Then it jumped up to, I think, 9.5 as it opened, and it's been bet up to 10.5. But I still think the Bengals handle business on the road, get to 6-2, which would mean 2 things. 1, 3 straight wins on the road, which is really, really hard to do in the NFL. And 2, that Zach Taylor would match his win total in his first 2 seasons with the Bengals, just 8 games into year number 3. Will it happen? Regardless, we're going to have you covered right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk all weekend long. I am not traveling to New York for this game, but going to have you covered. Plenty of video, plenty of analysis coming your way, news conferences, clips, and so much more. So don't you worry about that. We're going to cover it wall to wall. Make sure you check out allbengals.com. We'll have a post-game podcast on the Locked On Bengals podcast, and then hit that subscribe button right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk, as always. By the way, we reached 8,000 subs earlier this week. Shout out to you and all of our loyal viewers and listeners here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk, and we're just excited to continue growing. For Andrew Fox Miller, our producer and editor, I'm James Rapien. As always, thank you so much for watching right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.